What is our worth? Who determines our worth? When we're little, we just want to please our parents, society, culture, whatever rules we perceive, whatever rules we decide are the ones that will give us the most fruitful survival. And some of us, if we're lucky enough to wake up, we can find out that that has nothing to do with our worth. That we actually chose our life. We actually chose to come here in this body, in this time, in this culture, in this society, in this anything. We chose it to find a way of expressing who we are. We've all heard the phrase, creating your own reality. We take it so surface level. And some of us are starting to get it, but what we're not quite getting is that our reality, our world, as we know it is as individuals, our world as we see it, perceive it as individuals, it's through a very specific looking glass. And that determines how we view everything. A crowd of 200 people see one event, and 200 events occurred because we are creating the way that we perceive our world. And to go one step further, what we perceive is what we are calling to us. What we perceive is not thrust upon us. What we encounter in our day-to-day lives, we're not victims of it. We're being called to it. It is being called to us through the law of attraction. This is how the universe works. We're creating our own reality not just through our perception of the world and how we perceive it, and therefore what it is to us, what it means to us. We're also literally creating it by what we're putting out. It's like a radio. Whatever we're dialed into, whatever we're feeling, understanding, perceiving, believing, expecting, here. It's like the dial on a radio, and it draws back to us our world, our reality, our experience. So what does all that have to do with screenwriting? I was working at my family's business, a very successful business. I started working there straight out of college, and at that time, I believed my worth was inextricably linked to what I produced, the money that I was making, the car that I was driving, the house that I had. It was all mind driven. It had nothing to do with my heart. As the years went by, I was making enough money to buy enough stuff to fill the void that I was creating within myself. That's what I thought. I was miserable. About 6 years ago, I was sitting on the couch after a full day of work, and my then girlfriend, now wife, her name is also Jen, J-Fo, as many of you know her. She asked me a question. She's an artist, so she's always thinking about her cartoons, her drawings, her paintings, her creations. And she said to me, "What do you think about?" So I laid there with the TV reflecting off my gigantic glass of wine. And I didn't have an answer. And I really considered myself to be a creative spirit. And I didn't have an answer. So I said nothing, I guess. And that was the day it all changed. She said to me, well, if you could do anything, what would you do? I said, I always wanted to write a movie. She didn't even know this about me. And since I pushed her to start doing her original art, she pushed me to start writing movies. So from that point on, I took online courses. I went to seminars in New York and flew across the country to LA for seminars and read every how-to book I could get my hands on and listened to web tutorials and practiced. And my first script went through dozens of revisions. It's still in the drawer. But it taught me that I was doing exactly what I wanted to be doing. So over the course of the next probably 3 years, I gradually went from full-time to part-time to 2 days a week to leaving. Not this past Christmas, but the year before, I left and I started doing screenwriting full-time. When I took my online course, there were a handful of people that I really connected with. We exchanged our scripts and gave each other notes, and we really connected. And a few months after the course was over, I got an email from Jeff. He was one of the guys that we exchanged notes all the time. And he said, I saw this job posting on stage32.com. I thought of you. So I had not even heard of stage32.com at the time. Which is funny because now the CEO of Stage 32 is a producer on my first film. So full circle there. But I went on to Stage 32 and I found the job listing that he was talking about. It was a job listing from a Chicago producer, Joe Orlandino, at Atlas Media Ventures. And it was for a lesbian family drama. And since the script that I was writing in that course was a lesbian script, that's what made Jeff refer me to the job. So it gave a little field where you could type in anything you wanted, send your resume, send writing examples, anything you wanted to say. And all I said was, I think I'm the person you're looking for. Give me a call. And I left my number. So that night, I'm sitting at dinner, and I actually had completely forgotten about it. It was so in the moment that I didn't think about it again. And we're sitting there having dinner, and it occurred to me, and I said, babe, I applied for a screenwriting job today. And we kind of laughed because, I was unproduced and never had a writing job before. And we talked about, getting your first rejections and how everyone has to go through it. And as we're sitting there talking, my phone rings, and it's an unknown Chicago number. And I looked at her and I said, babe, it's him. I took the call, I went outside, and I paced around for 45 minutes, just speaking from my heart. He told me the gist of the story that he wanted to tell, and it was as if I knew the characters already. I knew exactly how I would tell the story. It was already right here. And we just clicked immediately. But he said to me, I got almost 200 applications, so I need to go through all of them. I can't just give you the job right now. And I said, that's fine. Go through them. And he said, in the meantime, do a write-up for me on everything that we just discussed, everything that you would do with the characters or with the story, and I'll go through it and I'll add you to the pile, and I'll let you know. So I immediately went to my laptop and typed up a 5-page character map and story map and thematic threads and everything that I would do with the story, everything that I felt. And without thinking, I just sent it off to him. And then I panicked for an entire week waiting to hear back from him. So a week later, I'm in Philadelphia. Jen and I are in Philadelphia, and we're in a parking lot, and I get a text message. And I guess what happened was the FaceTime that I was getting all week from an unknown number that I kept denying was him trying to give me the job. So finally he texted me and said, "Hey, call me. I've been trying to get a hold of you all week." So I called him, and he gave me the job. We jumped around the parking lot. I couldn't believe it. I was elated. I was over the moon. I had my first screenwriting job. So 5 years later, we had the funding to begin filming. We had Ed Asner casted in one of the roles. We had Sean Young casted in one of the roles. All I wanted was to be on set. I thought, how am I going to not be on set for my first film? I couldn't fathom it. And I talked to Joe, and he said, "I want you to be there. You got to talk to the director." One conversation with the director, and she invited me to be there for the whole filming to help guide the stories, guide the characters. So I got to Chicago a week before we started shooting, and I just wanted to be there to help in any way that I could. I had my script all highlighted and mapped out in Excel, and everything was ready. I knew exactly what we needed every day. I wanted to be indispensable on set. I wanted to help any way that I could. I wore every hat I possibly could. For those 5 days until we started filming, it was building sets, working with the art department, getting props in order that should have been taken care of but were not. Being on that set was basically like 4 years of film school in 18 days. Once we started shooting, I worked with the cinematographer on setting up shots, the lighting guy on setting up perfect scenes, the art department, the props. We had to turn a corner of a small studio apartment into a bedroom, and we found a bed headboard on the side of the road and drug it in, and it actually turned out great. And we did so much on such a small budget. And then when we started post-production, you couldn't get me out of the footage. I went through every take, mining it for the best performances, the most emotional moments, and how they would be put together. And I worked with the editor every day for months, putting together the first cut and every subsequent cut after that. And then I worked with the composer on doing the film score, and worked with the sound designer on sound effects and getting that in order. When I started learning about screenwriting is just about the time I learned about the law of attraction and creating your own reality. And I have been a disciple of those teachings ever since. When I realized that you're not a victim of life, that nothing is put into your reality without your invitation of it, that everything good or bad is being drawn to you by you. I took the reins on that fully and started taking responsibility for my life. I used meditation to imagine myself on a film set, working with talent and being a part of the filmmaking world. And here I am 6 years later with a script in post-production, an original script optioned, hired for my second job to write a script, and having an original script that I just finished that I intend to direct. And I have 9 other scripts in various stages of development that all I know is that they are an expression of who I am. And that once you start on that path, nothing short of that will ever satisfy you again. Each moment is an opportunity to make your own rules, your own path, your own definitions of success and fulfillment. And if you could find a way to understand, to know in your bones that your worth is intrinsically linked to your existence, and that there is nothing in the world that you need to do to be worthy of your life other than to exist. That's where the magic happens.